be alive.
Okay, so welcome everyone to part 2 of how to choose a glider. So welcome everyone who's here. Welcome also those who are watching this on YouTube live and also will be watching the recording. So again, yes, a massive topic, and we had part 1. We like Sach, the host, to do a kind of a recap, or I can do a bit of a recap, and we go from there. So a few words, what I'd like to say is that choosing a glider is it's not like buying any kind of an item where you just do a bit of research and go online and pick it up like a washing machine or something. You're actually buying a flying machine, and this decision is an important one, and it can mean life and death as well. So one needs to do a lot of research, and even after doing the research, the limited research that is available, listening to podcasts or watching videos or listening to the manufacturers or the dealers or the instructors and your fellow club pilots, still it's quite vague. Still you don't really know too much, and still you need to take this decision. So that is why we chose this topic, which is very important and directly concerns all of us. Like, I have to do my own research when I buy my glider, and I bought my new glider X Alps 3 Advance, and it was a couple of months of research, and maybe I did between 10 to 15 hours of actual collective hours of research to finally reach a decision to go for it, and that took me quite a few months. So I hope this goes a long way to help you to take more informed and wise decisions for buying your glider. Welcome, Captain. Captain is here with us. I sent him a link today. So just to quickly recap, we want to see the class that we want to go for, ENA, B, C. We want to decide the weight range correctly. We would like to see the performance and the comparisons. We also like to see the handling of the glider. We'd also like to see the safety aspects of the glider. And if possible, if you get a chance to test fly, then of course, nothing like it. We get closer to taking a more informed and a better decision. So we will continue this conversation on how to choose the glider. And I hand it over to Sachin.
Okay. So thank you, Avi. What last time we had started with some questions that how do I decide that, okay, I've reached at a position where I want to buy a new glider or a second-hand glider. So we discussed around that if you really want to grow in the sport, only that should be the reason that you're buying a glider. But if you're not able to commit the time which the sport demands, then it's okay to rent a glider, go to school and keep flying. Then we talked about when should you buy a glider? When you want to pursue it as a hobby, and when you feel that this is my sport, when there is a sense of belonging, and when you think that, okay, I want to really, really explore the sport, now that could be the time that you can buy a glider. And then we discussed a lot around what are the considerations. So we talked about budget, we talked about brand new and second-hand glider. Then we talked about, as we said, the size and different consideration. If you remember, just a quick recap, if you are into range, if your weight is around 70, 75 medium, then you should go for 75, 95, and the all-up should be falling in the center of the weight range. If you are falling into a large and XL, then you should go for a glider where you are nicely loaded. And if you remember, we had given special care for extra small and extra small gliders, where you should go for gliders where you are lightly loaded. But again, this was one of the consideration. Okay, fine. Again, we talked about color, which is not very important, but when it is important when you think about the UV radiation and other aspects. And I think we spend a lot of time on trust and confidence because when you fly, you really want to feel one with your glider, and that requires time. So this is one aspect which is generally overlooked when you are deciding your wing. So this is something which we discussed a lot. And I think currency of the flying was the last topic we discussed. And then we ended up with Manoj giving his example that how he chose a weight range where he was completely out of it. And then how did we help? So now we can move on. We can start with the next topic, which I had started, which was around design aspect of the glider. If you're buying a glider, which is earlier than 2012 to 2015, I wouldn't recommend that you should go for such gliders. Purely reason being the technology used, the evolution of the gliders are much better after 2013, 14, 15. The main technological evolutions which happened were the internal structure. The internal structure became very solid, very strong, better line plan. So these things, we can have a separate session to understand the internal structure of the glider, but you can also easily do the research around it. If you just go and research around older paragliders, which are like in year 2005 or even 1999, you will find gliders where the lines are attached at each and every cell. But if you observe now, these days, there are gaps of around at least 3 to 4 cells. So how they have managed by really empowering the glider inner structure. So that is one of the biggest revolution happened in the design. And the second aspect which really changed the game of paragliding is the shark nose technology, which is again a performance changed rapidly. If you take older examples, older gliders, the glide ratio of those gliders were around 5, 6. But now even E and A glider, if you check their glide ratio, it goes up to around 9. So I personally think that this is something which is a major factor when you are deciding to buy a glider, especially you are lighter on budget, because we have seen people are getting a good deal in 30, 40, 50,000, and they are really choosing the gliders which are pretty old. The style of flying is different. They're getting frustrated that they're not getting maximum out of the glider because everyone else is flying and they are on the ground. So this one consideration is something which is very, very important. Okay. Any questions around the design, older and newer design? Anything which comes to your mind, or if you want to add something to this?
Sachin.
Yes, sir.
Come closer to the mic.
Am I not audible?
You're a little less audible than how he was. So just adjust it somehow, whatever you need to do, you do it. It's better now.
Yeah, so I will hold it in my hand. Thank you, sir. Okay, if there are no questions, we can move on. The next topic, which again we would like to discuss, again a very important aspect. It's not the only important aspect, but I would say one of the important aspects, which is aspect ratio, which is again related to the rating of the glider, which is A plus, B. So B has low, mid, high, C, D, C, C, C. So I would like to combine 2, 3 categories here, which is one is aspect ratio, one is safety and performance, and one is rating. So what is aspect ratio? So let me share my screen for you guys. Okay. Can everyone see my screen very clearly? Just a thumbs up will help. Captain, sir, I can't hear you.
Yes, can see very well.
Okay, perfect. So aspect ratio is very simple concept to understand. It's simply the ratio between your chord and span in a very layman's language. There is a different formula for it. Let's not go into details of that. But higher the aspect ratio, you will see the span of the glider will be longish and chord will be smaller. And lesser the aspect ratio, the chord will be bigger and even your span will be lesser. Okay. Now, here in this example, this is from the website Soul, where clearly from bottom to top, they have shown us how the aspect ratio of their gliders are changing. Primus 5 being the lowest glider in terms of performance and maximum in terms of safety. And as we are going higher and higher, the last glider high competition where they have written CCC, the aspect ratio is 7.8. Okay. So this is a very simple concept. In one of the talks by a NOAA designer, he said this sentence which really stayed with me, that one of the easiest way to improve the performance for the designers is simply increase the aspect ratio. That is one of the simplest way for them. So now even for us, when we are going through our research of a particular glider, this is a very good handle to understand how my glider is toward on the safer side, or it is more demanding, or it is coming into a very high category where pilot skills are utterly the most important. To give an idea and to understand the seriousness of aspect ratio, if you can look at the third image here on the right hand side, this is Ozone Chabret's competition for mostly fun flying pilots like most of us. So what happens is pilots to win the competitions, they are really going towards higher and higher aspect ratio gliders. And it will be very unfair in the competitions if E and B gliders are competing with CCC gliders. But that's what usually happens. There are only two categories. One is sport category and one is open class. So now what these guys do is they are deciding the winners in each category based on the aspect ratio of the glider. Okay. So now you can clearly see here is A and B is falling into a different category, which is fun class less than 5.2, and then it's on the screen. I don't want to read it. All right. Even in our capsule 8, when we talk about EN limitation, we talk about this point deliberately, because this is the time you will go out of the school and start your research. And you must know that statistically, if I take ENA gliders, which are benign, extremely benign, very, very beginners. Now, what is, on an average, what is their aspect ratio? So this is what I've written in the first column, which is around 4.5 to 4.7. Now, this ENA and ENB category, the designer has a lot of space to play around. They can actually change a lot of things, and still they can achieve the criteria which is required for ENA glider. And if you can imagine, in the whole world, the biggest market would be for hobby pilots, which are actually coming into category where they are mostly flying for fun, they want to be safe, but yet they want performance. So that's why designers are giving focus on this category, mainly ENB, but now ENA plus has also come into picture. Okay, so now let's talk about this and understand. So ENA is historically school gliders. Even in Germany, it is mandatory that school must be using ENA gliders. So of course, the maximum safety is for ENAs. But now, as I said, companies like BJD Magic, gliders like BJD Magic, then Nova Aeonic, then Phi, all some of the designers are coming with a concept where we will still achieve the safety of A, but we can improve the performance a little bit. And now there is a category where you have done your 10-day course or a 20-day course, and you still want to go for a safer glider, and you are fitter, then we start recommending ENA plus. Like recently, at least I think around 3 club pilots have bought, 2 club pilots have bought BGD Magic, and 1 club pilot has got Nova Ionic, because purely we recommended, because we saw their progress, we saw their fitness levels, their age, and we felt that this could be the perfect glider for you. Okay. We used to recommend low Bs, which is this aspect ratio around 4.9 to 5.2. So we generally have used BGD Epic quite a lot, which is 5.01 aspect ratio. Again, very benign. In fact, I would invite you to go through the manual of BGD Epic and BGD Magic. Both are like, the performance-wise, everything is similar. And even the glide ratio, the top speed, the descent rate, almost everything is equal. So even though if you go for BGD Magic, you're still getting the advantage of the safety. Again, about this particular understanding of low, mid, and high, what things are changing? Because as far as certification is concerned, certification only says the rating. The certification does not talk about low, mid, or high. This is something which the designer may talk, or the pilots, the community will talk, but the certification will not show you this thing. So this is one of the limitation, but it can easily be solved by just doing some extra research. Okay. Now I want to show you something. Okay. So let's see this. Some test reports and stuff, so that you can get an idea. So now, yeah, again, you must have heard this example quite a lot. Jin had created one of the best glider in the market, which was Jin Carrera, and it was fallen into a category of B. But that glider was meant for more experienced, more current pilots who are looking for performance. But unfortunately, it happens in the community that you just look at one particular thing, you think this can be my glider, and people started buying the glider, and there were many incidents reported. So the fault is not of a manufacturer or even the certification. I would say these are limitations we as a consumer, we must consider, and we should do our own thorough research. So now, again, to give you an idea how important it is to read the manual, I have taken the snippets from the manual, and I will just quickly read this out for you. So this is for Jin Carrera, which is a glider which is coming into a B category. The Carrera Plus is performance wing that offers sporty handling and real-world performance in highly accessible package. Now, this is in itself is a big indication that they are saying that it is a performance wing. They are not really talking too much of a beginner aspect here. Okay. Now, see, again, the tip is mentioned to fly Carrera, you should be thoroughly familiar with active flying and recovery techniques. So again, the importance of SIV, experience and active flying experience, which is again thermaling, is emphasized here. Okay. The next glider, which I will just read it out, is BGD Epic. It's an entry-level paraglider suitable for intermediate pilots, offering high level of passive safety. Again, this much, if I read, I understand it's quite benign. And this facts, we will support it when we are going through the technical specifications. Okay, let's move on. The third one is BGD Magic. Magic is a safe, fun, performant paraglider that is suitable for training but capable of much, much more. Again, ENA, that's why suitable for training, but they have used this technical word which we hear in mostly in IT industry, performant. If there is a very good performance in that glider. Okay. Next one is, again, I was talking about ENA plus category. So let's hear about Aonic. The high-end ENA paraglider Aonic impresses with sportiness and performance, which is not usually found with ENA gliders, and is nevertheless suitable for instruction due to high level of safety. Okay. And the last one, let me just move my screen a little bit. Last one I've deliberately taken for ENC so that you clearly understand the difference. Delta 2, which is ENC, shows no unusual flying characteristics. Turns are smooth and coordinated. It remains solid and well pressured on glide, even through the accelerated speed range. It has very high resistance to collapse stalls. However, now this is important. It is high performance XC wing and is therefore only suitable for experienced pilots who are approximately 100 hours a year and who has SIV experience. All right. So now you can clearly understand the differentiation. And this is something which is not maybe, I mean, I would say this is given us on the plate, but still sometimes people think that this should have been more deliberate, but this can't be more deliberate than this. So please understand the importance of reading your manual. Okay, now we were talking about the aspect ratio here. So I just gave an example of Jin Carrera. The aspect ratio of Jin Carrera is 6. And if you can find out here, the aspect ratio statistically, Avi, can you mute? Statistically, the aspect ratio 6 is for ENC gliders. Now, this is another very, very important indication that, okay, the glider which I might be buying, it's just not showing the behaviors of ENP, but there is something more to it. So I will surely consider that. So when you hear about this glider, even on the paragliding forum and stuff, you will see users talking about it in a little bit of negative way. But when I hear designers talking, they say that this is one of the like beautiful glider, but then just people just didn't understand it correctly. All right. Okay, so I hope this particular aspect of aspect ratio is very, very clear for everyone. If you have any questions, anything you want to ask, please put it in comments or raise your hands. We are happy to answer.
Yashwant, you had a question?
I knew Yashwant would ask.
Please unmute yourself and you can go ahead.
Yeah, I wanted to ask, like, how much is actual difference between an A plus and a B minus? And second, are manufacturers slowly going away with a B minus kind of gliders? Because if you see, they used to recommend Iron 5 as in B minus, but since they've come up with an Iron 6, they've done it as a mid B instead of a B minus again, and they've instead come up with an Iron Aonic, which is a A plus.
Sorry, I got disconnected there. I think your question was around ENA plus. Can you please repeat what was it again?
So at 2, how much would the performance difference would be between an ENA plus and a B minus? And second, is the B minus category the manufacturer slowly going away from it, in the sense like when Iron 5 used to be there, they used to call it a B minus, but now with Iron 6 they are calling it a mid B and instead launched an Aonic, which is a A plus?
Yes, I can see that trend, because in BGD, Jin, many gliders, even Jin has not come with ENA plus yet, but I can see that they were focusing too much on this ENB section, and there used to be low, mid, and high, but now BGD has got they have stopped production of BGD base, which was higher ENB, and then now there is only Punk, which is coming mid B, and then there is Epic, and now they have created Magic. So you can say that manufacturers are, because see, it is also about market demand, because ENA was such a limit, it had become such a limited category. Imagine you yourself, all the club pilots, the moment you do 10-day, 20-day course, and when we were giving recommendation for ENA, people always used to push for B low or more into B category, because psychologically you want to go at a next level. But manufacturers have understood this demand, and now they have ability technologically to create gliders which can give the extra performance. Now, this extra performance we are talking about, you can easily find out by purely going through the manual, where they talk about top speed, they talk about sink rate, they talk about glide ratio, they give you the polar curve. When you compare these things, because safety you can't really compare, because passive safety is same, because they both have passed ENA test. So all the tests which are mentioned are all ENA pass. So you can't really compare the passive safety. There are other ways to compare the safety, which we will talk later, but quickly I'll mention. You can talk to your SIV instructor, but for that you need to have patience and wait that so that the glider is in the market for a couple of years, and now more information is out. I hope I have given you the answer to your question.
Yep.
Okay. Yes. Any other questions? Okay.
No, Sachin, you can go ahead.
Okay, fine. So guys, if you need this presentation, I'm happy to share it with you guys. So just send me your email IDs later, and then I will share it, because these figures are important when you are doing your research. Okay. Fine. Okay. Now, again, I will share my screen. Okay, screen is shared, right?
Yep, all good.
Okay.
Just make sure you're a little louder, Sachin. Thoda voice sometimes here.
Okay, okay, fine. So now let's see the test reports. How can you get the information of the out of the test reports? So this is BGD Epic, which is a lower B glider, and you will be surprised to see that if you go through the whole report, there is only one test which is falling under the B category, which is again an indication that this glider for other behavior, it is showing A, but only one thing, it is B. So again, you yourself can understand based on the combination of this test report and aspect ratio, this glider is actually low B. Also, some important things I would like your attention here is they are mentioning that who is the test pilot here. So you understand who is the test pilot, and you can connect these test pilots online and you can ask them questions. Our community is very small. So generally, everyone is so open and they generally respond. I have personally sent messages to Bruce and Nova designer, and they are always happily responding. So this is something which you can get some good information here. And then if you have observed here, the test is actually happening only on lower weight range of the glider and higher weight range of the glider. So the gliders are not tested for, if it is 105 to 125, it's not tested for 106, 7, 8, 9 to 124. It's only tested for 105 and 125. Again, this is one of the limitations. That's why you shouldn't rush buying your glider. Just wait, understand what's happening, what community is saying, and then you can take the decision. Okay. And again, I have to move my screen. You can see this ENB category. For asymmetric collapse, there are so many different sub-tests, and only on the higher loading, the glider is coming at B category. Let's quickly read about it. Large asymmetric collapse with fully activated accelerator, then changes of course until reinflation. That is happening only for higher loading. So again, you can understand why we say EPIC could be a benign ENB as far as the passive safety is concerned. So I hope you have understood how this test report and manual is actually helping us. Okay. And now let's see about Jim Carrera. Even though Jim Carrera is falling under same category, ENB, But now, why it is higher is one thing. We know that the aspect ratio is around 6, which is almost ENC. And now, look at this table. Behavior in steeply banked turn, sink rate after 2 turns, more than 40 meters per second for even low loading and even high loading. Then recovery from developed full stall. So you can clearly read and really understand that in which category my glider is actually going to behave in a more of a vicious way, or the reaction will be more of a dynamic reaction. So I think if after this session, if you can't be curious to read about manual and the test report, then something is wrong. So please make sure that be curious and seek this information, because this is something which is really going to help you a lot. A quick example, in SIV course, we always ask for test reports, and SIV instructor, we read it and we understand why this particular glider, what is the behavior of this particular glider, and then the instructor is prepared and he has thought about everything upfront. The example would be this time, I think Vikas sir and Ankush sir, Vikas and Ankush Mandve both were using Bijli Punk. And in case of asymmetric, it almost takes, the recovery is, the turns are not like ENA. The rate of turn and the speed and the time required for the turn is much more. So I have talked enough about aspect ratio, test report, manuals, and I hope this is something, the importance of these aspects are extremely clear to you guys. Any questions? No. So let's move on. Avi, do you want to say? Yeah. Okay.
So, about, we must all understand the limitations with testing. I mean, Sachin has mentioned it. The test reports, the testing, the way the testing is done has its own limitations. We know that these gliders, I mean, one thing that Sach mentioned was that it is tested at 85 and 105. You'll be flying it at 95, but no testing is done on that weight. That's one. Second is that the testing is done in very calm conditions, almost like weak wind, calm conditions over a lake water body, and which are not the conditions that you'll be flying in when you do thermaling or you're in a rotary area or whatever. So you have to understand these limitations, and they try to fit in. The designers have this in mind, that they want to fit in their glider in this particular category, and they have to pass the tests. So that also kind of takes something away from the equation. I'll just share a new glider, like if you heard of this company called Little Cloud. They come up with a new glider called Graccio. Okay. And they have decided not to go for EN tests. Say they are saying that there are limitations to the way the testing is done. It is done in very calm conditions, and we don't fly in those conditions. And too much is being trying to fit in that kind of category. So they are saying that we take a glider, we take our test pilots, we fly a glider in different conditions, and then design a glider for a particular kind of pilot that it'll fit in. So these guys are like not afraid that 80% of the market might say like, okay, no EN certification, I don't want this glider. But the designer is saying, I will find my people. I'm designing it for a certain kind of pilots. I'm flying this glider and testing it in for at least 50, 60 hours in different conditions, in flying conditions, and then manipulating it and deciding. And so there's an evolution happening in this direction also, and people are buying Graccio and gliders, beginning to buy that are not even tested. I'm not suggesting buy untested gliders, but be aware that that should not be the only thing that you should be looking out for. EN certification has its limitations. So yeah, before we move on to the next point, I wanted to share this. We are sharing this, in our capsules in school as well, that EN certification has limitations. Somebody has a question?
Dheeraj, is your question answered in chat? I guess Sajid answered.
Yes, Ninad, it's answered by Sajid. Thanks.
Okay.
Okay.
And particularly what you want is, if you were to go to the right, the core of it is that, you, after having decided the basic aspects of, class, weight range, this and that, and having seen through the marketing, strategies, etc., you want the right feel. The designer and the test pilot, their signature is what feel they want to give to the glider, and it is the feel that you want, the right feel, that I want to respond. I want the glider, when I put this much, I want the glider to go this way. Or somebody say, I want to put this much and I want the glider to like really turn sharp. So what is your requirement as a pilot in terms of the feel is what you really want to go for. And that is possible if you are able to fly that particular glider or get to understand the concept of, the feel. In school, we have loads of gliders. There you get a chance to fly different gliders and understand, what a particular manufacturer and test pilot team is trying to achieve in their glider, what kind of feel they are trying to achieve in their glider. Because when they achieve the feel that they want, then that's the magic of that particular glider, and it fits in with what you want also. So all this, research and, finding out will probably, you'll be able to reach the right place if you actually get to fly the glider as well. So yeah. And, like I mean, when you see ads in cross-country magazine or, on online, they talk about feels like magic, or, it's like a companion in the sky. And I mean, they don't mean anything really. They're just, ads. So you want like the real thing, which can come from you actually, trying that glider out. Or, reviews of, like Saj mentioned, that, the glider has come out and people are talking about it, and you then get a sense of it. And if you can fly it, then nothing like it. Okay, that's from me.
Nagin, you had a question?
Yeah, Avi, I would like to know how the speed of the glider varies from certain kilometers per hour to certain kilometers per hour, minimum, maximum. Various gliders have different speeds. So how do we choose what glider would be great for our takeoff, landing, and flying? What kind of speed we should choose, depending on skill? I mean, how do we decide that?
So again, like if you're buying your glider, whether an A or a B, this comes under the performance section of, the glider that you're looking out for. So like we mentioned earlier, also don't look out so much for these things because they don't really hold true. I mean, manufacturers are giving a speed of, let's say, whatever, 60. And they're saying this glide ratio. Okay, and I give an example in the last this thing also. You take two gliders, okay, same speed, same glide ratio, same loading. Okay, you take off and you'll find one guy is gone ahead, and one guy is little low and lagging behind because the air you're flying in. So you'll have to take this with a pinch of salt. The speeds that they mention and the performance that they mention, it's really not true. I mean, they're talking about calm, nil wind kind of a situation where we don't fly in those conditions. And two gliders in two different air masses will behave differently. You can also see a glider that is slower actually is ahead because the kind of air mass it kind of encountered, it's given it an advantage, and a faster glider is behind. So these speeds also take it with a pinch of salt, and performance should not be such a great criteria. I mean, we see on, when, let's say, take a simple example of flying at Pavna, for example. You can see like, A's, hanging around at one level, and the B's like, at the next level. And then there's some guys who coming with their C's, they're at the next level. So in average conditions, 50 feet, 100 feet here and there, I mean, do you want that to be, the deciding factor? Maybe not. You'd rather look at other things. You'd rather look at the feel, the handling, your comfort, the kind of flying you do, what you want to be doing with your glider. These are better considerations. And I don't think you should look at speeds and so much, unless, you are in competition flying and, you need that extra thing. You need that. You're really there and you're just into numbers and, want to kill it. Then maybe, and even then, you have to take it with a pinch of salt. I mean, it's not what they're saying. Yeah. And of course, like, a very good question, and Nagendra, in the sense that you need to see where you're flying. If majority of my flying is in Kamshet, I need to consider that. That is why, we don't recommend, students to buy lightweight equipment, for example. In strong conditions, you got this, thin material, it's going to bang and it's going to take you, you'll be out of control, etc. And not the best place with the conditions we have. You don't have carpeted takeoffs. You don't know buy lightweight material. It's going to last so much, and the terrain that way. So you need to consider that. And then, we've recommended like low Bs for a lot of, club pilots, because conditions we fly here are quite benign. It's like evening or mornings. It's not really thermic, and we can, go for something that is little better in terms of speed to give you a little bit more advantage. So yeah, consider where you're going to be flying. Very important. If our school was based in, let's say Bir or, Dehradun, whatever, we will be recommending a little differently, yeah. So it is like, getting the glider for this particular pilot, the perfect match, keeping pilot as the goal. Fine.
And I think what question you asked, Nagendra, you also can find out very easily by just checking the manuals and the polar curve. But the final, I think what Avi has said also actually summing up to a point where even though you go for a glider which trim speed and top speed are higher, but the rating is dropped down. So you are taking that ownership and risk that, okay, I know you take an accepted risk there. This is the importance. Okay, what even Avi was trying to say, right, Avi?
Yeah.
Okay, so we can move on to the next point. Next point is about type of flying. So now we will talk a little bit more for progression pilots, because if it's your first glider, I mean, without a doubt, you should be going for ENA, ENA plus or low B. You should not be thinking of going for mid B or high B unless you are going to spend a lot of time. Even then, I wouldn't recommend going for high B. I mean, we being an instructors, we don't have that in us that we can recommend mid B glider as your first glider. So yeah, but it depends now. When you do around 50, 60, 70 hours, somehow you understand what's your calling. Is it thermaling? Is it cross country where you really want to cover distance and explore the world? Or you want to go into acrobatics? Or you are just enjoying some morning, evening flights in the light condition, and that's it. So somehow when you do your progression, if you are really sensible, you will start understanding your calling. Why I said sensible is because people tend to compare with others and they start forcing things on themselves. That, okay, maybe I want to do this because this guy is doing that. So let's take an ideal situation that if it is your first glider, it's A plus or B low. And if you want to now progress towards maybe thermaling flying, now it depends. With this, the first glider, if you have done at least 50, 70 hours in thermaling. When you are doing thermaling and when the glider is shaking, that time, the feeling which comes into you after a few hours is not a nervousness or panicky, but there is a sense that, okay, yeah, there's something here. There's a thermal going up. But if there is there's still sense of nervousness, which is making you go away from that air mass, that means you still need to build hours. Again, typical example, if you see many of these incident accident videos online, something happens asymmetric, or if they are in a thermal, or if they are turning and they are holding the risers, I think that's a classic sign. If you are holding the risers, then you are a pilot who is not really understanding that I want to understand the air mass. I really want to understand what's happening. If you have this in you, you will never touch the risers. So typically, if there is asymmetric of this, there is turbulence. If you're holding the risers, you're not ready for progression. Don't think of going for the next glider, okay? But if you have earned your move, and how will you understand you have earned your move is your own confidence, talking to your instructors, and going through any education system. It can be APPI, BHPA, USPA, it doesn't matter. But some kind of validation and reference which is telling you that I have this level. I mean, that is something which will give you the confidence to move on to the next level. Okay. That's how I would consider, that's what I would recommend, that if you want to progress to the next glider, you can use these tools. Okay. Now, low B and high B, there is a big difference, because we have seen gliders like Rush, then even the gliders by 777, even BGD base. These high B gliders, they are beautiful, very good performance. But in case something goes wrong, pilot must know how to deal with this. So if you are progressing towards becoming a cross-country pilot, it's good to do a lot of SIVs, because that will give you a good idea of glider behavior. Okay. And if your calling is acro, then generally, I personally haven't done too much of acro, but from all the top guns, even Avi and even a lot of French instructors which I've spoken to, they say that the good start is to start with a low B glider. They are actually saying that if you want to learn acro, start with low B. But if you want to do acro, then I mean, I would personally say that minimum at least 100 hours, very good at active piloting. Then this advanced pilot exam have this task. Like if you are able to do two 360-degree turns in less than 20 seconds. If you are able to do 360 reversal, maybe you have done one 360, rolled out, and again another 360 in less than 25 seconds in a controlled manner, that shows level of your piloting. And a couple of more maneuvers which shows your piloting skills are good, nice, deep wingovers, which are symmetric and deep. And the last one is spiral entry, which is very smooth, and spiral exit, where the glider is perfectly stopping at your head, on your head, and it's not really diving violently. There are not no tip tap or no asymmetric collapses. So there are so many tools available for you guys to know that what's my level, and if my calling is this, then how should I plan my progression? Okay. In our club pilot community, there are many pilots who are going towards acro and cross country. And Sajid is one of the examples that he personally, he doesn't like XC, but he loves acro. And he really makes fun of XC pilots that itna patience kaise hai unke paas, and the glider is just like you have to be in the 360-degree turn all the time. So there will be a time that you will understand these things and you will find your calling. So you don't need to jump the gun. So this aspect, which is the type of flying you are doing, this will also determine that what kind of glider you would want to go for. Okay. Any questions? Anything? Anyone who wants to add? Senior club pilots.
Okay, a few additions to what Sach was saying. I would say that, your first glider, go in for an ENA glider. Okay. I would not recommend that, you go for B, even a low B. You are a hobby pilot. You're not going to be flying much. There'll be long gaps. How much, commitment you have, etc. If you're sure that you're going to be flying a lot, okay, and you are a talented pilot, your instructor will recommend maybe a low B. Only in that condition, I would suggest that go for a low B. Otherwise, go for a ENA glider and enjoy your flying. A lot of passive safety. You are going to be having gaps. You don't have much experience. Stay safe. Okay. Now we are talking about progressing. Okay. Now you want to buy the next glider. And how do you know that you are ready for the next glider? So one is, when you're buying a glider, buy a glider for the pilot you are now. Don't buy a glider for the pilot you will be 6 months down the line. That's why some guys, they say, okay, I've just started, but after 6 months it'll be useless, so I want to go for a B now. It doesn't make sense. You may never reach there. So buy the glider for your level, which is now. Don't future-proof your planning at all. You will yourself realize it was a bad move. Okay, so buy an ENA, play around. You can sell it easily to the school. It will have some kind of resale value. Or if you are like, you decided, oh my God, I found like the love of my life, paragliding is the thing for me. Then maybe, and that, you're going to be flying a lot, go for a low ENB and maybe go for a second hand if you think, you'll be soon upgrading yourself. And maybe go for a second hand because you know that you're going to be outgrowing it really fast. If these things are clear, then okay. Now talking about progression, how do I know that, it's time, I've outgrown this particular glider? So ask yourself very simple and very basic questions. Have you done thermaling on this glider? Have you done SIV on this glider? Have you used speed bar often whenever you want on this glider? Can you do decent wingovers on this glider? If the answers are no, why do you want to waste your money on another glider? There's so much this glider has still got to teach you, So don't get carried away by, this. Okay, you have the money and okay, I want to buy the next one because, the psychology also is this, that, I was soaring and, I was at this level and, other guys are soaring there or whatever. And you think that the glider will take me there, but it's not the glider. It's the skills that you need to focus on. And don't let the glider replace this learning process. Okay? Because some people jump to the next glider thinking that the learning process, I can take a shortcut and let the glider do that for me and not me. Oh, cool, that was easy. But no, it does not work like this. So like we are, talking throughout this session from part 1 to part 2, that you're important. You are the safety factor. Okay, you take a wise decision. And do not jump the process or the steps. So ask yourself questions. Have I done thermaling? Have I done a bit of cross country on this? Have I done SIV on this? Can I do decent wingovers on this? No. Come on. I mean, this glider has got so much left in it. Do all that. When the answer is yes, okay, yes, we can think of progressing ahead. So that's one. And then A plus, B minus, B plus. If you really go to C, there's not much difference. Okay, there's not much difference, even in performance, in a B minus and a B or a B plus and the A plus. it's just like, because the market is big in this area of the B market is big. So, okay, let's divide it and, make it B plus, B minus, and, stuff like this. Don't get carried away by that. Go for passive safety. And this performance you think, is better in a B plus and a B minus is nothing. It's nothing. A better pilot will outmaneuver a C even. On a B, a good pilot can outmaneuver a C even. So keep that in mind. And then, yeah, I mean, we got to keep it safe. So train yourself. Go for good training. Train yourself, and that will get you, the results you're looking for, and not so much, the glider. So you don't want to look at the performance too much and get caught in this little B minus and B plus, etc. It's not really much of a difference between these performance wise. And yeah, I mean, don't overanalyze these end reports, also. And go for experience, go for training, go for experience, so that, you don't make silly mistakes, don't take silly decisions. And don't get caught in these overanalyzation of these reports, etc. So yeah, I mean, when you talk to your instructor or you talk to your dealer or whatever, don't talk about too much of stats and performance and all this. Talk about what you want, what you're looking for, what is your level, what is your experience, what you enjoy in flying, what you are looking to do, and then let suggestions come, rather than keep discussing mathematics and analyzing reports, etc. So that's what I would recommend. So we'll continue with talking about progression pilots. When you're progressing on to the next wind, what are the things that you want to look out for? I have more, but Sach, you can take over, and then I'll come in again. Sach,
Okay.
yeah.
Sorry. So next points which we have in the list are pretty simple, so we won't spend too much time. I'll just quickly walk through them. One more point you should consider is the site of flying which you're going to use, because it happens that some people get the opportunity to design their life around paragliding, and they choose their workplace closer to where they can fly. So if you have that opportunity, you can easily understand that my place, if you're flying, if you're living in Bombay or Pune, so Kamshet is your local area, which is more dynamic. It has stronger winds, it is thermic. So it is good to go for a heavily loaded configuration. So this loading will also depend on where you are going to fly. So this is what we are covering now. Say, for example, you're going to live maybe in New Zealand, close to a coastal area, in Bali, in Goa. Coastal areas, the winds are laminar and they are strong. Again, loading will play a very, very important role. I will go for a nicely loaded glider. If I make mistake here, then I suffer, because then the others are flying and I'm just sitting. So you should choose wisely when you are considering the loading. And if I'm living in Bir, Himachal, then again, if as a beginner, I will go for a loading which is in the center. But if I am already an advanced pilot, I am thinking of competitions, then I will be flying mostly between 11 to 3, which is like really firm and strong. Then again, the higher loading is a better option. Okay. And if there are places which is a bit weaker, so you will want to have a better sink rate, then you will go for a lightly loaded glider. So this is also one of the important criteria you can consider. If you have any question on this, you can put it in the chat section, and I will attend to that. So I will move on to the next point, which is kit weight. This is again, as a beginner, I will never think for kit weight, because one thing is, yes, lighter gliders are available now in the market. Like that's one of the, again, like shark nose and other things which we were talking about, the evolution because of X-Alps. a lot of evolution in glider design has happened, and the manufacturing companies have been forced to create a cloth which is really lightweight. But again, as a beginner, you will be dragging your glider while inflation quite a lot. And especially if you're flying in place like Kamshet or Panchgani, where even after 2-3 flights, your glider becomes completely dusty and red. It doesn't make sense at all to go for a lighter glider. Sometimes people go for lighter harnesses where there is no bump air, so you're compromising your safety. So again, if you are ready for it, if your landings are immaculate, out of 10 landings, all the 10 landings are perfect, then I would even consider to go for a lighter harness. And sometimes people make mistake. They buy a glider which is pretty huge, and now they are compensating it by putting ballast or heavier reserve or heavier harness. But on the landing, they are facing a problem because the weight distribution is not perfect, and vice versa. They're going for a glider where they are pretty heavily loaded, and now they are searching for lighter reserves and lighter harnesses, and lighter harness meaning you are compromising safety. So be wise when you are deciding to go for the lighter version of the glider, because unless you're flying in Alps or Beer and you are experienced, I wouldn't recommend to go for a lighter kit. I remembered one example, even just Abhi was talking. Don't plan for future. So there have been incidents. People are really in rush to buy the glider, but they are in a phase where they're thinking that, okay, I'm going to reduce my 10 to 15 kg weight in next 6 months. And I'm saying that, okay, then please you do that and then buy the glider. But sometimes they just, no, I just want to buy now. And people have bought the glider, and unfortunately they couldn't reduce the weight. And now they are stuck to the glider. And now the glider dynamics, the descent rate is high. You're coming in with a lot of speed for landing. You're not able to climb. There are a lot of repercussions, and it is only adding to your frustration. So I would recommend, again, as Avi has perfectly beautifully put it, that please don't plan it for future. Once you buy a glider, you actually want to maintain your weight. Okay. So yeah, these 2 points just could walk through quickly. Any questions? Anything? Again, any additions if you want to do, please put it on the chat. And the next aspect is age and fitness. I think if you have observed lately from last 3-4 years, in all our P1, P2 tour emails, we have started mentioning about fitness. Funny story, people do come for the P1 course, and we ask them this question that, okay, guys, are you into sports? And they say that, no, not really. We never could get a chance in our busy day-to-day life to do any sports. And imagine now people are coming for an adventure sport, having no background of sport. So you have to understand and accept that, yes, adventure, our sport is a physical sport, and you must dedicate the time for fitness. So when you buy a glider, if you're not going to give time for this aspect, there is absolutely, it's a no-brainer that you should go for an ENA glider, because the passive safety offered is pretty high. Okay. But if you are into sports, and instructors also can see from your progression that you are really doing well, we have many examples in our club community, then with confidence, even we can recommend you to go for a glider which will give you that performance. In another talk, Nova designer was talking about this aspect of fitness, that if you're fit, you can get away with a bad landing or a bad incident purely because your body has taken that impact. So imagine the importance of fitness. So I would again invite you and get your attention to this particular aspect, that please, if you want to do the sport, you must give importance to your fitness. because yeah, that will really make a difference. Okay. Any questions, Avi? Do you want to add? I think you wanted to talk about this a little bit.
Yeah, a couple of points that come to my mind about this. One is that if you're on a glider that you're not really ready for, I think you're taking a lot of chances there, and it can lead to kind of dangerous situations. So your instructors or dealers would never want to sell you a glider which is not that you're not ready for. It's not a good advertisement for the sport, nor for that particular guy. It is good to buy a glider from a known source, like when we sell gliders to club pilots. We know that this pilot is going to mature. He will understand everything. He'll know everything about equipment, and he will know tomorrow whether we took a good decision for him or not. We already know all this. So there is accountability. Somebody sitting somewhere is not like you may not even be able to trace him. May be able to give you a slip, and we don't know who we are dealing with online. So be careful and buy it from a known source. If you are buying a second hand, like we have been selling second-hand equipment as well to so many club pilots, and we get it from a known source. Actually, I buy it from a friend of mine who I've flown with in Beer, etc. And he goes to the certification test center, and we get a certificate of testing done before we get these second-hand equipment. So do not even touch a glider second-hand if it's doesn't have a test certificate on it current. So that is one thing that you should always look for second-hand equipment. Otherwise, buy from a known source, and do the research. Talk to an instructor, and not only talk to club pilots, and not only check out the forums. Dust of the Universe is a good source, but also know who you're talking to, because if there's a pilot who's always flying the C's, and he really can't give you advice on a B. Instructors can, because they're seeing these gliders all the time. We also have instructors fly these gliders in the school and know how these gliders behave. So know your source also. And I would say the final criteria for the decision is the fun element. You deeply inside, you should be happy of the decision you have taken. You've gone about, you've done your research, and you're finally actually happy with the decision you've taken. You will know also. Or like you've ordered it and, oh my God, I'm not really sure. Actually, well, don't go for it yet. You have to be happy with the decision that you make. And fun should decide, that, okay, I'm going to have fun with this. I'm going to have fun on this glider. It'll give me the, freedom to play with it, and, it'll be. And then, talking about transitions, I was in, Greece. We were at Mount Olympus, and we were doing a XC. Bruce was there, and I think Sachin was also there. I'm not sure. And there's one guy. He was Chinese, and he took off and he went to the left, and I saw him, applying 50-60% brakes. He was on a B, a high B, 50-60% brakes. I was like, we were all actually surprised by the way he was flying, the way he was sitting. And then, he started to rise, and he, of course, realized that he was in a thermal. And he yanked the right brake, and we were just waiting for it and spin. And hit the ground. And fortunately, it was not too high. It was just a spin. So there was a back injury, but not so bad. And this particular pilot has done maybe 200 hours of flying. He's done 3 SIVs. He's got like, a good collection of gliders. But, you see, so I was just discussing with, Bruce, like, and we agreed that, wing over is actually a criteria to know the skills of a pilot. If you can do decent wing overs, this guy, I mean, he's done like 3 SIVs, 200 hours, but he doesn't know, the stall point or the spin point of his glider. He's done SIV. It's strange. So I would say, like, if you can do wing overs properly, can be a real good criteria of, where a pilot is. Because here, the glider is rolling and pitching and yawing, and you really need to understand the energy of the glider to know that this particular pilot understands the glider behavior or not. So it can be such, So go for a safe glider. Play like fully, do your SIVs. You should, like I keep telling in all my SIV courses and even at the base, that make if you're progressing, make wing overs as your target somehow. If you can do good, deep, fluid, symmetrical, beautiful wing overs, you can call yourself a good paragliding pilot. And now doors open to you to go into the acro world and to go into the XC world, like with good confidence. Okay, because you know to a great extent the glider behavior. Okay, so coming back, we know that we're doing what we're doing is not a walk in the park. We need to be really informed about stuff, and I hope, like today and from the previous session, everybody's got a lot of information and education about gliders, and it will go a long way in preparing you to be a better pilot, a more competent pilot, and a more safe pilot. And we will continue, organizing these educational sessions all throughout for the next few months to continue. So, and again, we were talking, in the private room before with Ninad and Sachin about this particular topic, and they were saying, like, Sachin was saying, like, this is a huge topic. Are we like what to do? Like, it's really big. I said it's okay. I mean, we've had part 1, we had part 2. Next season we have we come up with a new episode on the same topic, because our own knowledge will have increased, technology would have changed, new stuff would have come, and we will have the same topic again in the next season. So we update our knowledge and the technical advancement and developments in our sport. So yeah, I mean, that's the thinking behind these sessions. I would really encourage the come. And even if you pick up like 2-3 points, it's really good. It'll go a long way in you flying safely and enjoying your flying for a longer period. So yeah, I mean, what else?
Avi, there is a question on YouTube. A question on YouTube is, does the speed of the glider make any difference in the takeoff ability? And is there any difference between a fast and slower glider in same conditions when it comes to take? I think that's the same question, that the glider trim is different, faster and slower. So say, for example, EN A and EN C. So the speed of inflation there will be any difference in the speed of inflation? Speed of the glider makes any difference?
Oh, yes. Yeah, go ahead, Sach.
Yeah. Of course, there will be a difference which will be compensated by the pilot's ability, because he will be informed about the kind of behavior glider has, and accordingly the pilot will react. But yes, I mean, the inflation behavior will be different. In fact, because the trims are different, aspect ratio will be different, the surface area will be different. So the technique and anticipation from the pilot side will be, consideration will also be quite different.
Okay, this point I was making, about going for a glider, which you're actually not ready for, you will hinder your learning process. we are progressing as a pilot and we have a certain learning curve. If you take a glider that you're not really ready for, just for some reason, because how you want to be perceived in the club, or friends have gone for a B plus and you're still on a A minus or whatever, and you take that wrong decision of buying something you're not really ready for, your learning process and your learning curve will suffer, and you will not progress as you would have progressed on a glider that is more fitting to your level. So there's a bigger price to pay actually. So please remember that. And yeah, I mean, I hope we are able to answer about this speed thing. Of course, and there are, other techniques to launch, if this person's question is more in terms of, Sach, you started the slides?
Okay, I'm sorry.
Okay. So, there are different techniques to launch in strong winds. You can lay out your glider as a mushroom, lines are clear and you can pick it up. And then you can use the Cobra technique as well. Or, A's and C's if you understand the glider behavior really well. And there are a lot of techniques, to handle stronger winds. But yes, I mean, the glider speed will decide your inflation. We were also, like we have some speed wings, for example. I don't know how many of you know about this. Little Cloud designs these, we have some tandems called Little Cloud Bidules, and they are speed wings. They are like speed tandems, which are designed for stronger winds. So if you generally take off in 25, 30 max kind of kilometers per hour of speed, and these guys, speed wings can take off in 35 and even 40 kilometers per hour, because their surface area is much lower, wing loading is much higher, and you can launch in strong winds. And that's actually another sport in itself, and Sach and me have been contemplating to bring that into Kamshet, because when it gets really strong, and if you have smaller wings, you can really enjoy flying in Kamshet. Strong winds on smaller speed wings. Another topic altogether, but yes, the speed does affect the inflation. Okay, any more questions, guys?
Should we move on, Avi? I will take another 10 minutes.
Okay, fine.
So yeah, we just covered the type of flying, site of flying, fit weight, and then age and fitness. Again, next point is feeling on the brakes is not very important when you're choosing your first glider. But for progression pilots, this is something which comes into picture that Avi was just mentioning that some time ago. The philosophy of some designers are such as they want a very lighter feeling on the glider. And if you also go for a lightweight gliders, the feeling on the brake is on the lighter side. But if you are habitual to flying a glider, which is giving a really nice, solid, strong feeling, then you can continue that. So this is also one of the consideration while deciding the glider. Somebody can mute, please. Noisy. Okay. Next thing is again keep a track of your incidents, accident, bad takeoff, landings on your wing. Now this is something which is very, very interesting. If you're flying your first glider, maybe you have done around 70, 80 hours, but still in your 10 flights, there are 5 landings which you're preferring your legs to lift up and landing on your bum, because you know that your harness will take care of things. I don't think you are ready for the next glider. So keeping the habit of writing your log, like one of our senior pilots, Rohit, he may have around 4 to 5 logbooks, may have done more than maybe 700, 800 flights. And even now he writes each and every information about each and every flight. This is something which makes me feel wow, that even after so much of experience, a pilot is so concerned about every small minute thing. It can be as basic as if you have broken the ridge rule. It can be as basic as while inflation you've fallen down. So these things are also an indication that my basics are not sorted and I'm thinking of progressing to on a higher aspect ratio wing. So again, this could be a very good tool for you guys to understand that am I ready to progress to the next glider or no? Okay. And the last one, which is again interesting, is again this is for progression pilots, not very much for beginners. But if you are looking for higher Bs, Cs, or D gliders, you can easily go to the website X Contest, and then all the pilots across the world, most of the pilots across the world, they keep on uploading their tracks. And then you can click on a particular manufacturer and you can see this particular glider in the ranking, which is the first glider which has done most of the cross-country flights. So again, a lot of information about which glider is performing best worldwide, you can get out of this particular website. Just for fun, even though you're a beginner, you can still go through this website and collect a lot of information. Okay. Yes. Any questions, guys? Because we have almost finished with our categories at least. Any questions?
Okay. No questions?
Okay, if there are no questions now, then there are these two considerations, which again, very small topic, which I'll just finish and then I'm done.
Quickly, yeah.
One thing which we have seen, not many pilots are actually flying hybrid, not hybrid, with the wings, which are there for paragliding and paramotoring. But again, logically, if you consider paragliding and paramotoring, the loading demands on these wings are totally different. So the behavior will be different. So going through manual, going through reviews, really understanding which is the perfectly suitable glider for both the categories is something which is critical. So the people who are falling under this category should take extra precautions, extra R&D is required. And you may, I don't know if you know, on the advanced gliders, if you have seen on the edges, there are jet flaps. Then the swing gliders have come up with a technology called RAST, the winglets, and then advanced gliders have winglets. Then the technology of swing is RAST, and skywalk gliders, they come with jet flaps. So going for just one particular technology is not a sensible choice, because as one designer had said, that if a particular technology is very, very good, it will be there in all the gliders. For example, shark nose, even though it was found by ozone, it is there in all the gliders. So please don't fall for one particular thing. If it is good enough, everyone will have it. Okay. Fine. Again, I think this is kind of a summary of what we have learned. Is please be curious, seek information, paragliding forum, safety notices. If you have bought a glider, please subscribe to the newsletter so that the safety notices of these particular gliders are coming in. And if after 2 years, maybe some glider is failing in particular test, manufacturers gives this notice to everyone and they say that please stop flying this glider. So this is your responsibility that you subscribe to these safety notices. Then search online, many articles, different viewpoints from experts. Talk to people who are actually flying the wing. Talk to your instructors, online reviews. We went through test reports and manual. Talk to the designer and test pilot of the wing. Again, we have covered this. I think last session, Brun also had mentioned, please go through SIV videos. And if you can talk to the SIV instructors, they will be the best person who can talk about what different behavior they had seen in the SIVs. and if possible, test fly the glider. Consider aspect ratio and please commit to the fitness. If you are ignorant towards this, then stick to the basic glider, which is offering you the maximum passive safety. Okay.
Okay.
These are the brands actually we are dealing with. It's BGD, Nova, Design, Gen, Acra, Super, Woody Valley, Little Cloud, and we also deal indirectly with Skywalk, Advanced, and Ozone. So generally, when students are coming in, they have any questions, any doubts, they speak to the instructors, they talk to Avi, me, everyone who is in the school, and then we give our recommendations. As Avi just mentioned, we also deal with second-hand gliders where we get them from Austria, and the guy is very reliable because generally most of the gliders have gone through recertification, which gives us the confidence, which gives you the confidence to buy the glider. Okay. Any questions? Anything you want to add? Any senior pilots, if you want to add your viewpoint on this topic?
Okay. At the end of the day, what matters is that you're blessed and privileged to fly like a bird. You had fun while flying and you're back home safely. Cool. Yes. So I'll just take a moment. That was really well done and well said, Sach. Thank you very, very much. I see Sajid shining there on the screen. So just a quick word, last 2 points I have. One is test flying the glider. It'll be really good if you can test fly the glider. Of course, you ground handle it, see the inflation behavior, see how easily it will come up. Is it shooting forward? You can stall it, you can spin it, and get to know a lot, on the ground itself. And then that you fly it, you of course understand the handling, the feel of it, the agility of the glider. You get to know a lot, and then of course, how it behaves in a landing. So if you can test fly the glider, really, really, really good. Second, again, about test flying, manufacturers cannot test fly the gliders before sending it to pilots. Otherwise, all aircrafts are test flown by test pilots before they are, given to anyone.
Absolutely.
So this responsibility is, given to the schools and instructors by manufacturers. The good manufacturers, like BGD, for example, have asked us to not, to please test the glider before you give it out. So if you buy a glider, if you buy a new glider, you're welcome to get it to us, and we'll be happy to test fly it for you, like we do all the time. And for manufacturing, situations, because there have been cases where there's been a manufacturing default, in the glider. So actually, it's interest. Actually, the instructor at least has done SIVs, and he knows, he can handle the situation much better, and there's less of a risk, instructor taking a glider than you taking off, on a brand new glider all by yourself for the first time. So gliders that we sell, we like to, test fly them, give you a little report on, what we feel. And if you buy a glider from somewhere else and you want us to test, we'll be happy to do it for you, like we've been doing in the past. So yeah, these 2 points I wanted to mention. It's 7:30, hour and a half, perfect. If there's anything, welcome. Or we say goodbye. Okay, so before that, we have more, very interesting stuff lined up for you for this Sunday and the coming week. And we will inform you. We'll let you know what the topics are. Really interesting that you'll be able to directly relate to them. Yes, Sajid, go for it.
Yeah, so Sachin, very well done, man. All the points were very nicely sorted out and presented. I just want to give people my experience on what I felt. I was on a ENA glider for a very long time. I should have progressed earlier, but I didn't, and I waited for a long time, and so on. But here are the things that I felt when I moved on to a different glider. First of all, the question about, Avi answered very specifically on when are you ready to move to an next glider. You answered the same question. But when a person who's not ready and moves to another glider, the person realizes immediately that, oh my God, the previous glider has saved me a lot of times without you knowing it, because the passive safety in it is built so well. When you go to the new glider where you're not ready in it, you will realize, oh my God, I didn't know that this is what the glider was supposed to do, but it didn't do. It didn't dive so much when I was close to the terrain, or it didn't go so ballistic in a thermal, and it saved me actually. Now when I'm on this glider, I'm not ready for it, but I'm feeling now that, oh shit, I'm not. The corollary to that is that if you're on that safe glider for a very long time, your progression to progress is delayed. So you need to find that fine balance. And the simple thing about moving from A to B to C to wherever, A plus, B minus, whatever the range, like Avi said, I totally agree with him. Don't fall for that B and high and low and whatever. It's B. It's very clear on you need active piloting. C, you need serious active piloting. The thing that you will always notice between these different ranges of glider of A, B, C, and D is the energy level. If you can manage the energy level of those gliders, that's basically the difference. You should be so active that you should predict the movement that's going to happen and the energy with which it's going to happen, and be able to control that and be still safe, and think of that as being fun for you. The best thing that Avi has said in this whole thing is that if you're not having fun on the glider, you should not be switching to any other glider. Flying is about fun. It's not about getting marks for getting into the thermal and or doing other stuff. But it should be for yourself, and it should be fun. And yeah, that's my point.
Thank you, Sajid.
Thank you, Sajid. Well said. We have a question from Joel.
Yes, Joel, go ahead.
Hi, sir. Hello.
Yes, Joel, go ahead.
Hi to everyone. Hi, Avita. Sir, I have a question. The question is from the prospect of accuracy competition. The last time I've seen some of the pilots having gliders which are especially designed for accuracy championships. I mean, for the accuracy landings. So I was a bit curious about to know it, but I couldn't. So I would like to know how different these gliders are from A class, and knowing you may be knowing this. I mean the kind of flying I do and targeting accuracy competition. So supplement to this is whether I should go for such gliders in future.
Joel, can you mention which was the brand and the model?
So I don't know the brand, but the model is Point.
Point. Okay, I can do the research.
Point, yeah.
Because
the Korean pilot Jenny Beck, she is a gold medalist, I guess, or the silver medalist in the Asian Games. So
okay.
She's here in Broadland Tourism Championship. So I saw her flying the glider, and I have seen the results. In different flying conditions, most of the pilots are not able to make it to the spot, but that glider was taking her to the spot, of course near to the spot. Of course it depends on her skill also, but still the performance was very high.
Okay.
Okay, so yeah, I mean they've started to design gliders for this. Basically, like I was in Dubai. I was conducting a accuracy championship there. I was the chief judge, and I was talking to the the top guys. And yeah, like I mean, there like they were going for more basic gliders, like more like ENA plus-ish, because the behavior is more predictable. The glide angle is more predictable. They're not like floaty. You have to judge a lot. So you don't want something that has a very good glide ratio, but something that has a very predictable glide ratio. and predictable behavior as well, finesse in the inputs, and you get the result that you want. But I'm happy to know that they are now like specifically kind of designing gliders for accuracy. Then you go for that. You play around as much with your own glider, which is a or a low B, and these are the best gliders for accuracy at the moment. And then once you're ready to be on the top 3 and all that, and you want to be there, then of course you go for a specialized glider which is designed for it. But do a bit of a research study, talk to pilots, and see when you want to make the switch. But yeah, if you want to be on the podium and all that, you will need it. You will need it, no doubt. Yeah.
Thank you, sir. Sure.
Good to see you.
Good to see you, sir.
Yeah, I was also happy. There's a German company that is coming up that wrote to me in asking my feedback. They want to design gliders just for training. I mean, nobody's thought of it. They're just thinking of selling gliders and all, and nobody's thought of designing gliders. Basically, design them for training purposes. And they had a big questionnaire, and I was telling them like, thank you very much that somebody's thought about this, and they design gliders just for training. It'll be a big, huge step, in promoting the sport actually as a whole, because nobody's done that before. They just make like A's, simple gliders. They're not really focusing on only training. So yeah, I mean, good that there are these developments like this. Really good to know. Cool.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Thank you, Joel. Good to know that you're going for it.
Yes, sir.
Nice. Okay. Are we there then?
I think so. Any
Okay,
other questions and nothing? So we can stop for the day.
Okay, thank you very, very much, gentlemen pilots and ladies.
I guess there's one question. Vivek?
One question, okay.
Next, Allah, you are next, okay? Sorry.
Sach.
Should I? So I'll just read out. I have seen different designs of harness from different manufacturers. Can you schedule a short of? Yeah, of course, yes. We will be scheduling talks on harnesses, reserves, and other flying instrument. So yes, this is something which we will cover.
Yeah, this is a huge topic. Harnesses, we'll be dedicating a whole session to it, and maybe even 2. There's a lot of stuff out there, and of course reserves and instruments, and so we are curating all this. We'll surely talk in detail, and you can be ready with your questions.
So before we end, again, one important point which I missed out to tell you guys is we being in India, we don't have access to test centers very easily. But one of the consideration when you decide to buy a brand new wing is how is their post-sales services. So one of the brightest example I have is Nova, because when you buy a Nova wing, they give you the guarantee of for 2 years. And if there are any repairs you need to do, they do it for free for first 2 years. They do trimming for free in first 2 years. And like in mobile, you have extended warranty. You can buy extended warranty as well. So again, this is one of the important criteria when you're buying a glider. But then when you're in Europe, because yeah, this is like very easily accessible for them. But this is something which shows that the manufacturers are thinking, on these terms as well. So this is a difference between a thoughtful manufacturer and someone who's not. Cool. So Malhar, you have a question?
I think Jet's answered it.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Cool then, we can stop for the day. Thank you guys. Thank you
very much. See you all.